We have a lot to cover here in the next hour, so I just want to take you a little bit through what we're going to do, and then we'll get started. First, we are going to hear from our beloved governor. Next, we will hear from Mayor Alcombright, who is going to introduce some of the very special guests who are in the audience. Next, after that, will be Hans Morris, who's chairman of the board of MoCA, and we'll be talking about our private fundraising efforts. And then Joe Thompson, director of MoCA, will be talking about the programming for the building. Following that, there will be a brief question and answer period, the media in the audience and on the phone, so we ask that you refrain from asking questions until that point. And then following the conference, there will be a tour of Building 6 and the wonderful instruments that are in there that you'll be hearing about later. So first, it is my great pleasure to introduce a man who is a true leader, who takes a long-term view on transportation, on railroads, on education, and on MoCA and this project, which is for the generations. He's also a friend, and he and his wife Diane have been a friend of MoCA long before he was governor. They were members, and he's a pretty darn good cook. My great pleasure to introduce Governor Deval.
Thank you. Good morning. Jen, thank you very much for the warm welcome to you and Joe and Mr. Chairman Morris and the members of the board, to the mayor, and to our magnificent North County legislative delegation. You kind of have it all. I've been teasing Ben and calling him Paul Bunyan all day with his new growth of beard. I love you both. You're great partners. So Jen mentioned this notion of taking the long view, and I'll tell you, this is precisely why I left a life in the private sector, which I will say I have missed on payday, to run for office in the first place. Because one of the bad habits I saw in business, this sort of quarter by quarter management, the short-term focus, I think sometimes sacrificing the long-term interests of the enterprise, has crept into the way we govern in America, where we govern for the next election cycle or the next news cycle and not the next generation. And what we've tried to do over the last 8 years in close partnership with the legislature, with our municipal partners, with many, many folks in the grassroots, is to take that longer view, to invest in education, to invest in innovation, to invest in infrastructure, because these are ways in which we as a Commonwealth-wide community can build a stronger future for all of us. And I've brought very much, and our team have brought very much, a sense of governing the whole state. And I don't just say that to pander to a part of the Commonwealth that feels it hasn't been heard or seen in the past. It's because I think that is what we should all expect of our state government and of our governor. That's been a geographic focus. It's also been a demographic focus, in the sense that there are a handful of people who, no matter who the governor is, know how to get their phone calls returned, know how to get a meeting with the governor. They have all the resources and connections to look after their interests. The interest of everybody else depends on whether the governor sees you and acts as the governor of the whole state. And that's what we've been trying to do for the last 8 years, and I'm proud of an awful lot of the accomplishments that are a direct result of that, and this is one of them. Art completes us. It completes us. It's not for the hoi polloi, it's not for the fancies, it's not for the people who already understand the extraordinary collection that is here already at MoCA, or soon will be, or at our many other arts, both visual and performing arts facilities around the Commonwealth. It's for all of us to humanize ourselves, to complete us, to round us out, to make us full citizens and full human beings. And by the way, with 120,000 visitors already here to MoCA, it's a pretty darn important economic engine as well. And so I am proud, in fact delighted, that with the help of the legislature, we're able to invest some $25.4 million to expand MoCA to more of our community, both here in the Berkshires and around the world. MoCA is or will soon be the largest contemporary art museum in America. And how great that it's right here in Berkshire County. I know I'm among neighbors and many friends. I know I'm among, or I hope I'm among, people who understand that this point that art is about completing our sense of community and humanity. And I hope I am among those who see or will see the importance of governing for the next generation and not just the next news cycle. I know and am counting on Joe and Jen and the whole team to make the most of this investment and to make this investment the type that expands the audience to people who don't yet see themselves as appreciating the value and the impact of contemporary art and indeed the importance of art in their own lives. That will be a great civic contribution, well worth the investment. It's an honor to be with you today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor. You are always inspiring. Next, Mayor Alcombright of North Adams, who also serves as chairman of the MoCA Cultural Development Commission, which oversees the building of Phase 3.
Good morning. North Adams and the greater northern Berkshire region, we are a destination. We are truly a destination, and thank you, Governor, for being here this morning. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you, Joe. And on behalf of the city of North Adams, I want to welcome you all to this city with a very special welcome, of course, again to our governor and to our artists and the representatives and other guests. I'm going to recognize quite a few people and would like that just let everyone know that these folks will all be around after the event for questions or comments. First, Alan Fulkerson, member of the Board of Trustees and of the Robert Rauschenberg Foundation. Jerry Gorvoy of the Lois Bourgeois Easton Foundation, who could not be present this morning. James Turrell, who is apparently stuck in weather. Is that the idea? I'm not guessing why. From Flagstaff, but is represented here today by Hiram Butler. So we'll have someone here. Laurie Anderson from New York. We thank you. Jenny Holzer, who is under the weather, actually, unfortunately. But is represented by Michael Glyer. Jenny comes to us from Hoosick Falls, a local artist. Mark Stewart from our friends at Bang on a Can, representing the work of Gunnar Schonbeck from Bennington. And our wonderful architects, Brunner Kott is here today, represented by Simeon Brunner. I'm very sorry. Hans Morris, who is chairman of the MoCA Board of Trustees, which is a great group of people who are out raising a lot of private money for this project, of which we are so appreciative. And I see many other board members here, and we're very thankful for all that you do. I'd also like to recognize some of the MoCA commissioners who are here today. One of our most beloved community organizers, Shirley Davis, is with us. Two of our local artists and residents at the Eclipse Mill, Phil and Gail Sellers, and someone who grew up right in this neighborhood and a very active community member, Joanne Lipa Bates, and I want to thank them for being here. And also the strong support and leadership, we can't say it enough, of our northern representation, Senator Ben Downing and Representative Gail Ann Caridi, for their tireless work to support not only the efforts here at MoCA, but so many other great things in our region. Since its birth and through this moment, MoCA has brought so much to this community and in so many ways. However, I'd like to speak to the very important social and economic impact that this campus has had on our city and our greater region. For many of us, not so many years ago, we could not picture a city with MoCA, and isn't it ironic now that we can't picture a city without it? And when I think of the social enrichment for our city, our residents, and most importantly, what MoCA has done for our children and our local school system, it's simply remarkable. Economically, you simply need to imagine our city and region without the hundreds of cars, the thousands of people here every day, the employment they provide, the programming they offer, and who would have thought that this city would be hosting some 8,000 people for an entire weekend at a Wilco Festival, or some 5,000 people for a Fresh Grass Festival. And combine that with all of the other cultural assets, the Clark expansion, Williams College Museum of Art, two great liberal arts colleges in Williams College and MCLA, and our natural beauty. And with the governor's announcement today, with his commitment, we can now easily think about MoCA times 2, and this investment will have significant yet unknown benefit on this campus, in this city, and in this greater region. On behalf of the city, on behalf of the region, I'd like to once again thank the governor and all who have made this happen. As I have the power of the podium, I think what I'd just like to take a minute, if I could, Joe and Hans, to thank our governor from the city of North Adams. I won't have this opportunity again in a large room with a large amount of people. When I took office in January 2010, I met the governor. A couple weeks after, I knew he was a very special guy through one observation. He gave me his personal cell phone number. Regrettably now, I'm sure, at some level, but he gave me his personal cell phone number. Governor Deval has been a true friend of the Berkshires, and most specifically to this city and the greater northern Berkshires throughout his tenure. In my 5 years alone, he has supported us with upwards of $70 million in investment. Today's announcement of $25 million, some $24 million for our new Cold Grove Elementary School, which is every much as a bit of economic development as it is education. Support with commitment of some $3 million in efforts to bring scenic rail, connecting our downtown with downtown Adams. The trains are here. They came last night, so that's very, very good news. $800,000 via a MassWorks grant to jumpstart the privatization efforts of our Heritage State Park to be transformed into the Greylock Market. His strong commitment to local and school funding. Governor, what you did throughout my 5 years, despite the economic times, has just been remarkable. And what I still call the miracle on Route 2, insisting and committing the funds so that our turnpike, Route 2, on our way to Boston, was fully repaired in 13 weeks after Hurricane Irene, when most people thought it would take a year or more. And for that, we still thank you and congratulate you. And finally, and most importantly recently, is your immediate and strong and steadfast commitment to the restoration of medical services here in North Adams and in northern Berkshire County. Under your leadership, Mr. Governor, so much has been restored. I'm certain you played no small role in Berkshire Medical Center just receiving a $3 million chart award that'll help them provide even more services over time. And by the way, I think the hospital closure was the only time I really used your personal cell phone. That was the time. So Governor Patrick, I and this greater northern Berkshire community have been blessed to have such a partner, leading the way for the past 8 years. From the bottom of my heart, on behalf of the city of North Adams and our greater region, I thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, just under 2 years ago, we had a strategic planning session at MoCA. And like all of you in this room, I've probably been to 100 strategic planning sessions, and most of the time, nothing comes out of them. They don't come true. But today is quite remarkable. We're going to make this announcement that our plan has come true. And as you can see by the extraordinary collection of both artists and projects that are gathered here today, this is pretty close to a miracle, except we seem to specialize in miracles at MoCA. That's part of our brand. Also today, we're going to initiate what we call the loud part of our Confluence campaign, in which we will raise $30 million to realize the plan, which Joe is going to talk about in some detail. And as of this morning, I want to announce that we have raised $13.65 million. About 46% of that goal has been committed, including 100% of our board of directors is committed to participate. So let me give you a little background on that strategic planning session, which was on a Saturday in January during a blizzard, as I recall. When we were sitting there, we talked about how MoCA had something unique. And if you think about all the museums in the world, we had the reciprocal of what they had. All other museums, all major museums, have huge collections, and they display 1 or 2% of that collection. We have no collection, but we have a lot of space. We also said that we figured out we had a reputation with artists for collaboration. both for bold programming, for doing things that really were on the edge, but also that's kind of Yankee know-how and a work ethic to get things done, which I know is directly part of being here in North Adams. That culture comes from this being a factory and the people who work here. We help the artists realize their ideas. And we also do it at incredibly low cost. I will assert that we are the most efficient museum in the United States of America, maybe in the world. What we do for what we produce at the cost is incredible. We're a quarter of the cost of most other museums. So, and what we found is when we started with the LeWitt Gallery and then continuing with the Kiefer and the Hall Art Foundation project, we developed a concept which was saying, let's develop these spaces in partnership. We don't have to own the art. It's a better way of filling our galleries. And we don't control the art. We don't own it, but it's on our campus. And we saw this formula, and here's the formula. We said if we take big scale, plus exciting programming, plus low cost, can-do spirit, and a beautiful setting, you get something really, really special. And no other museum in the whole world has that. So from that, at that strategic planning session, we said, who exactly would we want? What artists would we want to be here? And Joe, 2 years ago, laid out the artists, and they're all here. That's never happened in my experience. So, against all odds, we are now here, and we're going to kick off this Confluence campaign. So let me tell you, why do we call it the Confluence campaign? Well, the first thing is, it makes possible the gathering, the confluence of many kinds of art resources and diversity of programming at MoCA. And we built this profile by working with the profile. Our brand comes from working with 3,000 artists over 15 years have created work here, but also teaming up with institutions. So here's some examples of institutions that we regularly collaborate with. So in the Berkshires, it's Jacob's Pillow, the Clark, Williamstown Theater Festival, and Williams College. And further afield, it's Yale University, Bang on a Can, the Hall Art Foundation, the studios of Saul LeWitt and Anselm Kiefer, the Public Theater, Sundance, and Wilco. That's a pretty good list. So what this Confluence campaign does is bringing together what we're calling our campus of museums. It's taking this concept and really broadening it in a major, major realization. And we believe this is going to be the most exciting collaboration of artists anywhere in the world. We also think it will become a major art destination because we're going to have large-scale, long-term exhibits combined with evolving exhibitions, which will be from our partners like Rauschenberg and Hall Art Foundations, and also new work created by Laurie Anderson and by Jenny Holzer. And of course, all the regular programming and performing arts that we do in the galleries, on the stages, outdoors, and every place else. We also like the idea of MoCA becoming a campus that welcomes and hosts diverse voices in our culture. That's also a confluence. And the other reason we like this word is that the renovation of that building 6 over there is at the confluence of the north and south branch of the Hoosac River. And you'll see in Joe's remarks what that's going to look like. So that's why we call it the Confluence campaign. It's going to accomplish 2 other things. It's going to secure our financial stability. We've come a long way in that regard, but it ensures that we have enough endowment to expand our programming and educational programs. We'll also create a building maintenance reserve fund. This is 650,000 square feet of very old buildings. They're beautiful. They've been beautifully renovated by Brunner Cotton Associates, the architects who've helped us from the very beginning. But we need to maintain them for the next 100 years, and that costs a lot of money. So we're going to raise the money to make sure that that happens. And finally, the campaign helps us realize the next phase of the master plan of North Adams, something the mayor talked about. And this will help us create some new, beautiful public spaces, and it will really integrate the campus of MoCA more into the downtown and more into the Greylock Marketplace. So none of this would be possible without Joe Thompson. And I've said this many times, I think he's one of the most remarkable executives I've ever worked with in my career. We also have a truly one-of-a-kind board of real hard workers and smart people and diverse and no baloney. It's just a great board of directors. And it was led through the whole MoCA roller coaster ride by 2 of our former chairmen who are here today, Alan Fulkerson and Duncan Brown. I'd like to acknowledge them, who have been great leaders. Most importantly, we're really thankful for our partnership with the artists who are here, the institutions that have helped us, and most importantly, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and you, Governor Patrick. Been a great help and a great fan, and we're so proud of that. And we also want to thank Mayor Alcombright and Senator Dowling, Representative Caridi. Thank you all, and thank especially the people of North Adams who've accepted us here, been such a part of this whole organization. So thank you and welcome.
Okay, well, I'm Joe. I'm going to just show you a little quick taste of what we're up to here for the next 3 years. This is not something that happens overnight. We have about 2.5 years worth of work to do. This is our campus as we've come to know it, but I just wanted to give a little context here. This is what we opened with in 1999. The buildings have obviously, they've been here the whole time, but when we started, we only had about 200,000 square feet renovated. Over the last 15 years, we've expanded the footprint to some 400,000 square feet, still a lot to go. And when we're completed with this, as we're calling phase 3, every building on the campus except one, building 17, which is the one right across the river here, will have been refurbished and renovated. We're looking forward to that. The seed corn for phase 3 is really this building right over here, devoted to Sol LeWitt, shown here in green. In 2008, we teamed up with Yale University Art Gallery and the Williams College Museum of Art and the Sol LeWitt Studio and installed some 105 wall drawings on 30,000 square feet, and it was a light bulb going off for us. That's the moment we really realized that, hey, you don't have to own the art. I don't even know what it means to own art anyway. Art's something that exists for everybody for a very, very long time. You just sort of rent it in a way. And this project, coupled with the vast amounts of space we have, just opened up this whole world of opportunity for us, which we had a second iteration at this summer when we opened the Hall Art Foundation Anselm Kiefer project, converting an old 1 million gallon concrete tank into a vessel for art. Here's a few images of it. Our next focus will be here on the sort of western perimeter of the site, as Hans pointed out, at the confluence of the north and south branches of the Hoosic. But I just want to point out one thing that Simeon Bruner and Jason and his team at Bruner Cotter are going to help us realize, which is a great expansion of the campus. When we opened, people will remember 15 years ago, you would enter a spine of galleries, walk all the way to the end, and you had to turn around and reverse yourself and come back. That's kind of not the best piece of exhibition narrative psychology in the world. We loved it, of course, but we knew we could do better. When the LeWitt building opened, we realized the first of a series of potential circles. It began to open up the full complex. With phase 3, every courtyard, every field, every walkway, every view inside and outside of the museum will be open, and the public will be able to realize this as a complex in a way that they've never been able to before. We're really excited about that. I think that even though it's a doubling of our exhibition space, it's going to seem like a quadrupling or an order of magnitude even expansion of the overall experience of this complex and the beautiful way the buildings fit together. There's another series of loops it will finish. Oh, here's that in plan, how that works. You can see how the public will be able to go through it around. But there's another series of loops that we'll be completing in a way. That's Mount Greylock, Pittsfield at the south, and North Adams and Williamstown at the north. We're really lucky here. We have a beautiful network of bike trails that go around. Some are bike trails, the Ashawillitacook, some are expansions of Route 7. We can almost make it around we can almost circumnavigate the entire Mount Greylock. And of course, those who are game can go up over the top. There are projects going on in the community led by the City Hall, City of North Adams. Gail has put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears into this effort. And soon, measured in bike path time, soon, the path will be completed with a connector from Adams to North Adams and from Williamstown to North Adams. And that's going to be exciting for us particularly, because those connections are going to go right through these buildings. We're going to bring people in the new West Main access over on the Adams side and across a new bridge, tunneling through this building right here. So it'll be the only bike trail I know in the world that you'll be able to circumnavigate the tallest mountain in the state, going through orchards, farmers, pastures and prairies, historic mill town, village beautifuls, and end up going through this beautiful complex of buildings and literally riding right through the middle of the gallery space. It's going to be fun. So Hans mentioned that when we thought of this possibility, we thought of like, who would we like to work with? Who would we like to work for? What kinds of artists would be really rewarding to team up with, not for 2 years or 3 years, but for 5 years and 10 years and 25 years. And we thought, well, first we want artists who could really exploit our space. These buildings are not perfectly illuminated, perfectly proportioned white box spaces. They're big, tough, raw, vernacular, industrial buildings. They're a huge, huge gift from the age of industry to our own, this post-industrial age that we live in. They're noble. I love them. They have a humanity. The panes of glass are the size of your head and the bricks are the size of your hand. There's something about these buildings that you can feel, 150 years of people's labor in them. And we wanted artists who could work with that. That means artists who could demand large amounts of space and who can deal with the texture of these buildings. So that was number one. Number two, we wanted artists who could make place. Whenever we've done things for a long time, we've tried to work with artists who have a special sense of where they are, whether it's Natalie Jaramanjinko's beautiful upside-down trees that greet people at the front door, or Michael Oatman's whimsically crash-landed orbital lander that's up on our boiler house over there, or Stephen Vitiello, who transfigured an abandoned boiler house into a fictional space that's just mind-blowingly beautiful, or Anselm Kiefer, who took this water tank and converted it into a really elegant vessel for 30 paintings and beautiful sculpture. We want to work with artists anyway who know where they are and who would create a space that you can't find anywhere else. This is not ever going to be a gallery where paintings come in and a show can zip through and you might catch it in Paris or see it in Los Angeles. You're going to have to come to North Adams to see this work. Finally, we wanted art that really was engaging. We devote fully 50% of our emotional and financial bandwidth to the performing arts. Even though we're called a museum, we're really a center for performing arts. We show beautiful work like this great installation by Teresita Fernandez, but we often mix it up with sound and music. So we're interested in art that has a full-bore, full sensory engagement. That's a bang on a can performance, sometimes quite at large scale. This is one of our solid sound festivals, which, as the mayor said, draws 8,000 or 10,000 people a day. We also do work that is somewhat more conventional. This is a beautiful presentation of Merce Cunningham's Summer Space that we teamed up with Jacob's Pillow several years ago. The costumes for that, by the way, were designed by Robert Rauschenberg, who was one of the first artists we thought about. Robert Rauschenberg, many will remember, that's Bob in our Gallery 5 space as he was installing his quarter-mile painting here in 1999. For us, Bob's belief that the art can actually change the world, he truly thought that art was a political actor as much as anything else, and that it could move people to make important changes. That very much aligned with the vibe of MoCA. So teaming up with his foundation seemed like a natural. We're happy to have Alan Fulkerson here from the foundation, working with Christy McLear, the director. Has been a pleasure. The idea with Rauschenberg is not like LeWitt. LeWitt, we put up the art and it stays in place. This program with the Rauschenberg is going to be much more about chance and change. We will show his work. We will show great examples of it for a very extended period of time. But we're also teaming up with their artist in residency program in Captiva, and we'll be bringing new work by emerging and established artists here for changing exhibitions, and we'll also be showing changing exhibitions of Bob's work. So that program is going to have all kinds of interesting nuances. I should say that one of the key motivators in this relationship was the fact, was where we are, the fact that we have two great institutions of higher learning with MCLA and Williams College, but also the Clark Art Institute and its graduate program in art history. The Rauschenberg Foundation was very excited at the thought of having year after year of young scholars and curators in training having access to the archives and inventory of the Rauschenberg Foundation. So the kind of intellectual infrastructure and educational infrastructure that marks the Berkshires was a key thing in this. In this, I think I'm fair in characterizing that, Alan, right? Louise Bourgeois and the Easton Foundation. Louise Bourgeois was born in Paris in 1911, and she truly bridges our time to that of early modernism, and she drank deeply of surrealism. In the end, though, she created a totally unique body of work, which often focused quite closely on the body itself. We're lucky that things never happen without friends and loyal supporters. We have a collector couple, Michael and Joan Salke, I think maybe Allison is here, who introduced us to the Easton Foundation, and we quickly realized that there was a whole body of work that Louise Bourgeois' foundation had that was not being shown. They were large, heavy works of carved marble that literally were too heavy to leave the studio. Some of them weighed 15 tons and more. Because we had this opportunity of renovating space and adding steel and opening up openings, we could actually, and these buildings are made for holding heavy machinery. They're tough buildings. We found this beautiful opportunity to team up with the Easton Foundation. We'll be showing some numbers, 7, 8, maybe 9 works of Louise works, which I think, as I think of them, and I think of them in juxtaposition to another artist that we're showing, James Turrell, it just seems like a perfect poetic collision on one hand. On one hand, you have these unbelievably dense, massive bodies of stone that don't take up so much space against James Turrell's work, who's all about pure light. If Jim were here, he would probably say something like, his works don't use light, and they're not about light, but they are light itself. Light is Jim's sculptural material. Being in an installation by James Turrell is like nothing else in the world. In that way, he's a very American artist. It's very literal. It's exactly what it is. We're really looking forward to having 9, maybe 10 of his works here, one of which will be interesting. Jim has been visiting MoCA for since 1987 and 1988, I think, was his first visit here. And he immediately saw this water tank here, and he's never forgotten it. He has an idea for it. He wants his hope is to cut a hole, an ocular hole in it, and turn it into a celestial observatory among the 9 or 10 other works. So we're really, really lucky to be working with Jim. Hiram Butler, his friend and representative, is here, and he's willing to answer questions about this work. And by the way, take advantage of the chance to get to know these guys better. Jenny Holzer. Jenny's an artist that is known in Paris and Tokyo and Los Angeles and Chicago. She happens to be a neighbor. She and her husband, Mike Lear, I think Mike is here, live in Hoosick Falls. We've shown both work by both Mike and Jenny on several occasions. I show an image here of her projections piece in 2007. Jenny is known for presenting her astringent ideas, arguments, and sorrows in public places, and her medium is language, or more specifically writing, and her work is often about power and poetry. She uses poetry, and she also writes it. I'll read you one quote in which she describes, in her typical language, exactly what she does. She says, "I show what I can with words, in light and motion, in a chosen place, and when I envelop the time needed, the space around, the noise, the smells, the people looking at one another and everything before them, I have given what I know." we're looking forward to having that work here. Jenny will be installing a series of projections in dedicated spaces, and then a system of her work that will sort of unfold or insinuate itself across the entire campus, using vehicles that are familiar to those who know her work, like benches and LED signage, but also new technology. She's working with augmented reality so that she can essentially paint the buildings, both the interior and exterior, with her language that you'll experience with your smartphone as you walk across the campus. Laurie Anderson is here with us today. Laurie, thank you so much for coming. Do you like that picture? You can't pin Laurie down. She's a vocalist, a storyteller, a painter, an instrument maker. At the end of the day, I guess I think of her as a voice and as a kind of conscientious consciousness. Laurie explains the world to us today. She takes on broad issues like morality and war and science, and she explains it in her voice that's, I think, one of the most unique and important voices of our time. Laurie's program here is going to be fascinating. Making a museum for a voice is an interesting challenge. And Laurie quickly landed on the metaphor of a radio station, Radio Anderson, a place that would be broadcasting as much as a place to visit. There will be galleries. We were just walking through the building today, and Laurie was saying that she needs places to show video. She needs places where audio work can play. She needs places where her paintings can be shown. But she also likes this image of sending her work out into the world from here. I showed this image of her in her, I don't know where that was, Laurie. Was that in your studio in New York? Or and if we hope, I think, as I was looking at this picture, I hope the experience of being at Laurie Anderson's installation at Mass MoCA will feel like being on the telephone with Laurie. That would be a pretty special achievement if we can do that. Gunnar Schonbeck, unlike most of the artists that we've just talked about, is somebody that will be new to most of the world, I'm sure. He's not new to us here at Mass MoCA, because Mark Stewart and his colleagues at Bang on a Can have been working with Gunnar Schonbeck's wild instrumentarium for 3 or 4 years here now. Gunnar taught at Bennington College, where for 50 years he taught musical theory and composition, but he had a habit and an interest. Gunnar believed that everything had in it a particular sound, and that every human soul had within them the capacity to make music and be a musician, and that if you could get these two things together, the world would be a lot more interesting and better place. He acted on that by making, over the 50 years, a remarkable collection of crazy instruments, handmade, often out of the simplest materials, 2x4s, and painted himself, and using old car parts and plumbing, pieces of plumbing. And he would gather people around in Bennington College, first a few dozen at a time, and as he did this over and over, they became big gatherings. At the end of his life, there would be 200 and 300 and 400 people would come together and make music. It was kind of a part block party, part parade, part concert. It was a real musical gathering. Mark and later a couple of his musician friends from Wilco discovered that these instruments were sitting quasi-abandoned up at Bennington College, and began bringing them down to Mass MoCA, where we stored them in Building 6. And over the course of the last 3 or 4 years, as we've had these festivals, more and more of our public have liked using them instruments. They're beautiful, they're fun, they invite participation. So our idea is both a homage to this little-known and wonderful musician in our neighborhood, but also as a celebration of the kind of community interaction that's become a core of our festivals, to install these instruments in a gallery that will be part rehearsal hall, part community participation room. It's going to be a fun project. Mark will have more to say about that as well. Our hope here is that both Hans and the governor talked about, and the mayor talked about economic impact when there are two Johns. John DeRosa sitting here, and former Mayor John Barrett, who's here as well, first helped us dream up Mass MoCA. The hope was that by bringing people to North Adams, things would get better in North Adams. There was it was, and things have gotten a lot better. I can tell this story in all sorts of ways. Unemployment used to be about 7 times what it was in the state. It's now about 1.5 times what it is in the state. Downtown occupancy rate used to be about 20 or 25%. It's kind of hovers now between 60 and 80%, so it's 3 or 4 times better than it used to be. But we know it can be better. It's not good enough. Not enough people who come to MoCA go downtown. Not enough people who come to the Berkshires, they make a quick day trip from Manchester or from Burlington. They come up from northwestern Connecticut or over from Albany, and they were able to visit the Clark in the morning and MoCA in the afternoon and maybe catch a show at the Williamstown Theater Festival and then hightail it back to wherever they were coming from. We want people to stay longer and enjoy more, and we want more people to come. But we know that if you can convert one person from a day tripper to an overnight, they'll spend on average 10 times as much in the place that they're visiting. So that's a game changer. With the great work that the Clark Art Institute has done and that fabulous reopening of the Deval building, the Clark is now hard to, you don't want to leave. It's so beautiful. With our recent expansion, people are staying longer. We believe that with this phase 3 work, people will stay longer yet, and it will become impossible to visit our region in an afternoon or a day, and will be more and more people staying on 2- and 3-day weekends or a whole week. There's a lot to do here. That's the idea. We're really looking forward to it. So I'll talk a little bit about the timeline. What's going to happen next on this project is that we'll enter into design development, working with our partners and Simeon and Jason, the architecture team. It will take us about 3 more months to turn these ideas into construction drawings. We'll be going to bid in the early spring, and we intend to start construction by the late spring. It will take about 1.5 years to do the work, if all goes well, so that by the spring of 2017, we'll be moving into the new building, and our goal is on Memorial Day 2017 to open up Building 6 and the related outdoor spaces that go with it, if all goes well. We'll keep you informed about that as it goes. It's obviously it's a construction project, and it's one with a lot of moving parts, but we'll be as transparent as we can possibly be as the project takes shape.